Hi Jane, welcome.
Hello.
So this is the first time we are meeting, but can I also know a bit about your background? So this is our first session, and I'd like to understand if you have any counseling experience prior to this.
No, I don't.
Alright, okay. So in that case, maybe I'll introduce a bit about what counseling is and what it's like to work with me. So most of the clients that I see who has no counseling experience may have questions about counseling. So this is really the time for you to raise it up. So feel free to ask all kinds of questions you have so that you have that clarity. And also this is your session. This is actually, I'm here more as a facilitator, more as a guide, more as someone who journey with you on this path of uncovering answers for yourself. So I may not have the answers for you because it's not my life. Yeah, it is your life. So we recognize you having that expert seat in your life, and this is a process of thinking things through on maybe some of the things that's bothering you. Yeah. So counseling itself can vary. The experience can vary from person to person. It's okay to have all sorts of feelings, and I like to set the ground that all sorts of feelings are welcome here. So in counseling sessions, I would not have any value judgment on emotion. So whether your emotion is negative, so-called negative, they are actually not negative. All emotions are actually neutral and to serve us. Yeah, so that is the background of how I will conduct the session. And it's really important for you to feel like safe. So you will want to maybe check out the environment. If you would like, I can even bring you on a tour around this area so that you are familiarized. I know this is not a neutral ground for you since you are here and you're in my office right now. Yeah. So I want you to feel as comfortable as you can in the counseling session, and environment is important. So like, okay, this is the door, and you can feel free to pause the session, take a breather, go somewhere. It is your freedom to do so. Yeah,
Okay.
that is the main key that I like to bring it across to you. Yeah. So to begin with, maybe I can ask you if you have any questions regarding counseling.
How often should counseling be?
Sure, that is actually a very common question. Counseling actually ranges. Many of my clients see me on a weekly basis. Some of them see me on an ad hoc. Some of them see me as a monthly basis. I have clients who have seen me once and then they felt tremendous relief, and they are good. They no longer need to come back to see me. I have clients who see me for years, and the progress of the therapy is very subjective to individual. So and so is the frequency. It's also quite subjective. So what I'd like you to do is to monitor how you're feeling throughout our session. If you are feeling uncomfortable, do take note of what's making you uncomfortable. Yeah, and when you feel safe enough, I mean the key here is really feeling safe, because if you are feeling safe enough, then you can talk about the feelings that is surfacing, whether in session or outside of the session. And if you don't feel safe, you don't feel comfortable, then you want to have a mental note on what is making you not feeling so safe and comfortable. And I welcome all feedback. I welcome you to share with me what is making you uncomfortable so that I have greater understanding, and I can also make adjustment in our time together.
Okay. Then how long does each session normally take, and is it easy to book an appointment, let's say ad hoc, let's say?
Yeah, it's really easy. You can go to my website and all my available slots is there. You can pick any one. You don't have to stick to a particular day or time like Thursday 5 p.m. You can choose whichever time, but I do suggest, if you can, do make it, if we are going to see each other on a regular basis, say on a weekly basis, it would actually be good to stick to a same time and same day, because that's just how human is wired. We are just like creatures of habits. We just like to do the same thing at the same time on the same day. Just like when we wake up, first thing we do is, beside opening our eyes, is most likely going to brush our teeth. So when we do it like a very habitual manner, it's less taxing ourselves. Our mind is kind of like prepared. Okay, this day, this time, I'm coming. It's easy for me to remember. Yeah, so it's more like for the ease of actually returning back to counseling sessions. But yeah, I'm okay if you ever need to change the day and the time to see me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're asking on how easy it is to book with me and how often therapy is.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything out from your question?
I don't think so. Yeah, not that I have any other questions for now.
Okay. Yeah. I'm interested to actually hear a bit from you, Jane. What got you to book this very first counseling session for yourself?
I think recently, like, I've been hearing and seeing a lot more people say, even if we don't feel that bad, it's good to, just check in with a counselor, with a therapist, as a regular checkup, like how we do for our physical health. Yeah, and I guess recently I've been, in a sense, thrown into a slightly different environment from before. So I'm starting to feel certain things more strongly compared to before. That's why I booked the session.
Oh, right, okay. From what you just said, it's quite encouraging for me to know that young people like yourself is becoming more aware that therapy is not only meant for people who are not doing well in life or feeling down and stuff like that. Therapy can really help to enhance your functioning as of now, and that is what I'm gathering from you, that actually sounds like things are actually pretty okay, but you're becoming more aware of certain areas in your life which you would like to look into.
Yes.
Right, okay. Tell me more about it.
I guess it's because I've graduated from school, so I'm now more in the working world, and there's no set path compared to before when I was studying. You're just looking ahead to the next exam, to the next test. Everyone is doing the same thing at the same time, in a sense. You go for your CCAs, you study, if you have some leadership positions, you go and attend meetings, but everyone is on the same track in that sense. But now in the working world, it's very different. Like, friends are like doing totally different things. And it becomes I find myself comparing myself to them a lot more. Yeah, I mean, I did compare previously, but I guess it was more quantifiable, and I always found a way to, in a sense, shift my focus away. But I think now it's harder to shift the focus away because of how varied everything is. Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of felt this more acutely after you started working, that you have that tendency to compare your performances. Is it performances, or tell me more what the comparisons are?
Like, for instance, like what I'm doing, what I'm able to achieve, for instance, like social life, personality even, like, yeah, I think especially with social media, yeah, that social life and personality parts comes a lot into play, and then that's when I start to compare myself a lot more as well.
I see. Right. Yeah. That is, and who else do you think is also having this problem with comparison?
I think everyone faces it, and like, I know that it's not good for myself, that I should not be comparing myself to others, because everyone is at their own pace. They have their own life to live, and like, in the theory I understand it, but to really not do it, that's very hard. Like, I can't stop myself from comparing.
Right, I hear you. And even though you know that other people are doing comparing as well, yeah, I guess where I'm going with this is comparison is very normal. As humans, I mean, you can ask everyone on the street, they would tend to compare because we really try to find a kind of like a measuring yardstick of where we stand in our society, and that is just very normal, right? Humans tend to work in a hierarchical manner, yeah. So actually, I want to get your view on why do you think comparison actually is important or is valuable? Because you have been doing that, and it must be something that's serving you in some ways.
I think it keeps me motivated. Like, it makes me want to strive harder to achieve what other people can achieve. Like, I want to be able to do the same thing as them. Like, I do not want to seem like I'm worse than them, I'm inferior to them. Like, yeah, but that's a horrible mindset to have, and I think it's very toxic of myself to think that way, because like I don't think I should be constantly like trying to beat other people in that sense. Yeah, and then in a sense, like for instance, my friends have jobs, I have a job as well, but for some reason I just keep comparing smaller things like how long we have to work, what is our job scope, our pay, so on and so forth. And yeah, sometimes it gets like I find myself very drained sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah, like even if like some comparisons makes me feel good, then that makes me feel very bad as a person, then it makes me feel drained. Then sometimes if it's the other way where I don't feel as good because that person is more in a sense capable, then I'm also very drained because I don't know how I can actually attain that.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you do recognize there is advantage to being to having comparison because you're competitive. You want to make sure that you're moving along with the rest and not get left behind.
Yeah.
So that itself is an advantage, right? It's actually helps you to do well, survive well in the society, but you also see the toll it has on you. Especially you're talking about emotional and mental toll on yourself, and perhaps even social, because you talk about it's not good to compare amongst friends.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So so here you are, you want to you find that this is something that is bothering you, that you tend to compare, right? And on a scale of say 1 to 10, okay, so 1 being that you feel like you barely have any control of yourself comparing yourself with others, 10 being like, oh, actually I think I can kind of like stop myself from comparing. Where do you think you are?
I think it's hard to put a number to it because I feel like I can't stop myself from comparing, but when I compare, I'm conscious of it and I tell myself to stop. But I guess the subconscious mind continues to compare. So I can't exactly put a number to it because there's both sides of it.
So you're cognizant, you're aware, you're comparing, and you actually want to not compare, but there is something within you that you can't help but to continue on in comparing.
Yeah.
Right, got it. So which actually means that even if you set the intention of not wanting to compare, you will still you will still take in the information and it will still affect you. Like if can you give me a context, like maybe one incident?
One incident. I think like for instance like I knew that I shouldn't compare, let's say. I knew that okay, so I knew that I shouldn't compare my job to what my friend was doing currently, and I was doing an internship and she was doing like different part-time jobs, yeah. And then I just couldn't help but compare, like, and I knew that, you know, it's very different nature by itself, so I knew that I shouldn't ever compare it in the first place, because it's not even apples to apples, right? Yeah. And I'll just be like bothering myself if I actually do the comparison, because like that's just not going to go well, because it's not even the same thing then. But I just couldn't stop myself, and then I started thinking like, oh, you know, she has more time because, you know, she is able to plan her time based on when she wants to work. And then of course I think as a part-timer you earn more compared to someone who's doing internship. So yeah, then that affected me as well. And then like I was just thinking like, wow, like she'll learn so much from like all the different part-time jobs. Wow, you know, I only have one to learn from. Yeah.
Okay. And is it only when you are comparing yourself down to someone else that bothers you? I mean, have you ever compared yourself up to others? Like, you think that you're actually getting a better end of the deal and you're doing better?
I think there are, of course, you know, sometimes where I feel that, but immediately then there'll be something that comes into my mind where I'm worse than the other person.
Alright, okay.
Yeah.
So there is a negative bias.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And again, that is actually very common. It's very natural for us to slip into the negative bias. Again, it comes from the space or the psychological evolutions of survival, where we tend not to see that everything is going fine. We are actually pretty, you know, on time, in line, and pretty average, or maybe the same as most of our friends. But if there is anything that is different about us, we tend to zero in and highlight the differences. How do you feel about what I've just said? Is that how you feel?
Like, I kind of heard of it before, but like actually I guess understanding it and applying it to my daily life is really hard. Yeah, like the theory I understand, you know. Yeah.
So you understand, maybe you can articulate it. What do you understand?
In a sense, as human beings, like we always tend to focus on the weaknesses of ourselves, and not really, like, let's say, the strengths. We don't tend to see the strengths in ourselves. Instead we amplify our weaknesses and our flaws. Yeah, and that's just, in a sense, how humans work. I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's try something that is not usual of you, right? So the usual of you is more like negative bias, right? So now I'd like you to focus, like, you know, recall a time where you feel like, oh, you feel pretty good about yourself.
Do I have to articulate it?
Okay, so now that as you're recalling this positive feelings about yourself, right? Do you actually have got a comparison there, like you're feeling better about yourself because you're comparing to others, you're actually doing better, or there are some aspect of yourself that you like more than in comparison with others? Is there a comparison over there, or not?
I'm not very sure, because what I was thinking of is actually, like, in a sense, getting good grades. So it's very hard for me to say whether it was comparison, because in a sense, good is subjective. Good tends to come from a comparison with what is bad. But at the same time, when you said that, it made me think, like, when I got the results, I felt happy because, like, the first moment of happiness, of course, was I worked hard, and, you know, it was reciprocated in that sense. Yeah, but there isn't comparison, like, oh, I did better than someone else, that's why I feel happy. There wasn't any of that, but I'm aware of the fact that good, I only think that that's good or that is perceived as good because there's a comparison of bad in the society, I guess. Yeah, so there's no comparison on my personal part, but there's a comparison on what we perceive is good and bad.
Here we are differentiating comparisons on according to social standards versus a personal comparison. So earlier on you were talking more of a personal comparison, like your friend in a part-time jobs having more time versus you. So that is more of a personal comparison. Where else when you give this scenario of good grades, it's more of a societal standard you're comparing against.
Yeah.
So on a societal standard, you're doing objectively well for your grades. So that is not like a direct comparison with a person, a friend, right? Okay, right, yeah. And if we look from this angle, I just want to understand the comparison you have of yourself not being as good. Is it mostly like, are you more affected because you're directly comparing with someone, or you're actually comparing according to societal standard?
I think it's mostly when I'm comparing with a specific person.
Right.
Yeah, not really societal.
Okay. What is there any feelings that's coming across to you right now about yourself comparing to another person?
I think I really resent myself doing that, and like, why do I have to be so competitive to keep comparing myself, and in a sense put other people as a subject of my comparison? Like, why should they even be compared to me? Yeah.
Okay. So as you're saying it, are you feeling it?
Yeah, like I feel like a very immoral and a very bad person for even like comparing, or for even like taking other people to compare to myself, because I felt they don't deserve that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have actually a negative feeling about yourself when you compare, even though you compare yourself negatively to others.
Yeah, because I feel like they didn't ask to be compared. They didn't, like, in a sense it's very selfish of me to like just take them and then like use it to like compare against myself. Yeah, I feel like it's not fair to them.
Okay, I can hear you have actually compassion for others, even though they have no idea at all what's going on within you and what you think and how you feel. But there is that compassion for others, and I'd like you to imagine you have like a friend right now hearing this, what you have just said about you comparing yourself down, right? And I'd like you to imagine the responses from that friend to you. So choose a friend that you know is supportive, a friend who is compassionate towards your struggle, someone whom you feel can understand you. All right. So if you have someone in mind, now can you take the position of that friend? What would a friend actually say to you?
It's normal to compare and like you don't have to feel bad about it, but you know, you'll be doing yourself a good favor if you actually like try and stop yourself from doing it, because it'll save you a lot of trouble, it'll save you a lot of negative feelings. Yeah. But in a sense, like, I know that but doing it is hard, you know, like it's easier said than done.
Yeah. So so you know the kind of thing to do for yourself is not to compare, but you find it hard not to do that.
Yes.
Right. So underlying it is there's a motivation, there's something that is pushing you to compare.
Yes, I guess.
So you would tune into that. If you say, okay, I'm going to stop comparing, what is this other part of you? What kind of protest this other part of you may raise?
I don't think there's like another part, but what I would think is more of like actually I'm not too sure.
Is there surely it will be a protest, right? You say, well, it's easier said than done. But if you were to say, yeah, I'm not going to compare anymore, like, you know, everyone drums their own beat. What possibly can be the protests or objections there?
You're not going to do as well as others. You're going to lag behind. You're going to disappoint the people who have faith in you. Yeah, and then you're going to be looked down on. Yeah.
Okay. You are going to be looked down on. You will disappoint the people who have faith in you. You'll be lagging behind. That's all that I catch.
Yeah, that's
right?
mostly.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So all these three objections seems to be more like self-preservation. Like don't get lag behind. Don't disappoint. There's a relationship part to it. Don't disappoint the ones who believes in you. And also, what's the last one?
Yeah.
Don't lag behind. Don't disappoint.
I can't remember as well.
Right, yeah. So there's actually the self-preservation part, and there's also that relationship part to it. Right. Which one do you feel you'd like to focus more on right now? That has more kind of emotional response in you? Weighs more heavily?
Self-preservation.
Alright, okay. Yeah. So there's that fear. The fear of lagging behind. Okay. What possibly can happen if you lag behind?
I will feel bad about myself. I will feel like I disappointed the people around me. I will feel like I wasted all the time, effort and resources that like others put into me. Yeah, and yeah, that's mostly.
So you are really being quite accountable to the resources given to you, the focus, the time, the energy given to you, and you are constantly checking yourself to make sure that you are not kind of like being wasteful. You're not letting these people down.
I think another one is I don't want to fall short of the expectations others have of me, and the expectations I have of myself as well.
Right, expectation of yourself and expectation of others on you. Right. Okay. Right. And that is going, and you mentioned earlier, that's going to make you feel bad about yourself if you fall short of your own expectation or the expectation these people have of you. Right, so you're actually preventing yourself from feeling bad about yourself. That is where the comparison serves the function of the comparison.
So the function of me comparing is for me to not feel so bad about myself.
To prevent yourself feeling bad about yourself.
But I end up feeling bad.
That's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You end up feeling bad because you feel like you're not doing a good thing to others by comparing yourself to others. It's not fair for them. That's what you said. And you're feeling also. Do you also feel bad about yourself? You said that you resent yourself for comparing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of fall under your standard of who you should be as a person.
Yeah.
Right. So here we are putting it up on the table and seeing all these things rises and falling. On the table. Yeah. And now we can look at this like there is, on one hand, self-preservation. Also you want to make sure you don't let people down and do justice to the resources, time and energy given to you. And also you don't want to disappoint yourself and think bad about yourself, feel bad about yourself later on when you don't do well. But there is also that value of you feeling that, feeling bad about yourself for comparing negatively, even though you're comparing negatively about yourself. But you have a value of comparison is not healthy, comparison is bad. It's not just to compare apple with orange. Not everything is the same. So there's that awareness over there, right, of the damage that it can cause. Yeah, putting all this on the table right now. And as you're looking at these things on the table, what comes to your mind?
I'm very self-entitled. Yeah.
Is that how you feel, really?
Yeah, because it's like I'm doing it for self-preservation. Like it's, I guess, for myself to feel better. And then I'm just dragging all these people in, and then I'm coming up with all of these reasons to, in a sense, try and justify, but end up not justifying.
Wow. That's really getting not to any good end.
Yeah.
Wow. Right. And you were saying that this has a toll on you, right?
It's a double-edged sword. Like it has a toll. Okay, like normally when I compare, it just has a toll first. I'll feel really bad about myself, and I'll feel like I'm really not doing well. Yeah. Then once I sit with that feeling for a while, then it actually spurs me on to do something to improve myself.
Okay.
So it's double-edged.
So at first you feel bad by comparing, but then it also serves the purpose of spurring you to a better end.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So there is really not all bad about comparison.
Yes, but I think there's a healthier way to spur myself on compared to pulling other people into my problems.
Is that a questions you have that you would like to find answers to in counselling, or that you actually have got answers to your question?
As an answer to the question of another healthier
way of spurring yourself on.
I haven't found another way to actually spur myself on as well as like comparison has been able to. Like I haven't actually like experienced something that was able to do so. Yeah. But I'm not actually actively seeking for the answer to this question through counselling, but I'm more of trying to seek the answer to how to stop comparing through counselling.
That's very interesting. So you come in because you're feeling the toll, the mental toll, emotional toll on yourself for comparing.
Not really mental and emotional toll, but I just I feel really bad for doing it. Like I feel bad as a person. Yeah.
Okay. So you come in because you feel bad as a person to be doing this. And what are you looking forward to that can help you to resolve through counseling?
To stop comparing.
Right. Okay. And so if you like to stop comparing, and we know the function of the comparison, part of it actually is helping you. It is effectively, and that's the motivation of you doing comparison. Then we actually will have to find alternate way. Instead of doing comparison, if there is other ways of spurring you forward, would that be something you're interested to look at, and therefore you don't have to compare?
But I think the problem is I don't compare myself with the hope of spurring myself on. Like the spurring myself on actually comes more of a byproduct, of comparing myself. So I don't know whether actually, like, I mean, we can try, but I'm not very sure whether finding another way to spur myself on will actually like allow me to stop comparing, because I guess the original motive was not to spur myself on when I was comparing. It was just like a byproduct that came along the way.
Right. Okay, so I just have to rewind it like a few steps, going back to why you started comparison again. So you were wanting to make sure that you don't lag behind. You live up to expectations, also expectations of yourself. So these are the two essential ones. So there's the self-preservation, and there's the relationship part, that you don't disappoint others. So these are the reasons why, these are what motivates you to compare.
I feel like there's more, but I just can't like think of it now. Yeah, I guess it's more subconscious lah, like the other reasons.
Yeah. And as all things subconscious, the process of therapy is essentially to make what is subconscious or unconscious do something conscious. So when it becomes more, when we are conscious about it, then we can make choices like what I was attempting to do earlier on, by putting it on the table, and you see like, oh, this is what I'm doing, and that is that alternate ways, and what are the choices before you, what are you going to do about it. So that would be the direction of counseling, to make the unconscious conscious. Is that something sufficient for you? Is this why you come counseling for?
I think it would be good to like make myself more aware of what's actually driving everything. Maybe from there I'll be able to find the solution to like the ultimate question, which is how to stop comparing, I guess.
Right. So it's really a journey of uncovering, and we may sometimes, with a lot of my clients, they may start off with one complaint about their life, and they think that they just want to solve that one complaint, but it ended up things just flowered and kind of have a life of its own, and move into areas that really require attention. So a lot of unfolding start happening without us really having consciously manipulated. We just have to allow the flow to take place. So even though we may start with one thing, as we progress on, I think it'll be interesting to see how it will unfold. Any other questions or reflections, anything at all you'd like to ask?
Maybe since like you have a better understanding of the problem that I'm facing and I wish to resolve, what would you recommend is the frequency Yeah, because at the start it says it's case by case, right?
Exactly, yes. And okay, as of now I can't advise you how often, because I would suggest that we have at least 1 or 2 more sessions, and I will call it assessment phase of the treatment, whereby I will actually understand more about your background. We have not really go into it, so I will understand maybe about your childhood experiences, significant events, your family dynamic, your relationship with your parents, with your siblings, your school environment, your cultural and stuff like that. So I'll actually go more into like understanding your background, at least for the next session. And then it also depends what comes up, like if there is other, because we can actually do some minor intervention as things are coming through. Yeah, so if without presuming or assuming too much, it really depends on how things unfold in the next 1 or 2 more sessions for me to actually have a more accurate assessment of how often we should be meeting up. Yeah.
What do you mean by the minor interventions?
So if you have some significant events, and of course the emotion starts coming in and stuff like that, it depends within the session whether it is appropriate for us to do some processing work of that significant incident in your life. Yeah, so it really depends on how you were at that point of time. Yeah.
Okay, understand.
So it's actually quite a dynamic process in counseling, in psychotherapy. So it's very hard to, it really varied from person to person, and I can't say this is going to be it for you in the next session.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does it sound for you, the way, at least for the next 1 or 2 more sessions? How do you feel about coming back?
I think I'm quite excited to like uncover what is my subconscious or unconscious mind that results in, you know, this problem that I have. Yeah, and I think like today the way you laid it out for me, it made it clearer to myself. Like I guess I knew certain bits of and pieces of what we actually talked about, but I wasn't able to put them together and see it. Yeah, it was just at a certain point I knew of like information A, and I knew information B at a different point, but I was never able to like put it together. But you managed to help me do that.
Great, yeah. So happy that you have a taster of what this process is going to be like. It's like already, right? Okay, so let's call it the end of today's session.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.